that that school will not be in existence if it was not for the NGCDF. I want to say that when the school started, that is 2014, it started through the NGCDF, and it is from there that we're able to be wherever we are right now. If I can talk about the many classes we have in that school, we have about 24 classrooms, which I can say 16 of those classrooms are through the NGCDF. We're also talking about when it comes to the issue of the laboratories. We also have the kitchen of the school. We're also talking about the abolition block. In fact, all the abolition blocks we have in the school are as a result of the NGCDF. Also, not to mention also the school bus. We have a school bus which was courtesy of the NGCDF. So I can say the NGCDF was really done a lot when it comes to our school, and I'm sure also in other schools. Thank you.
And Elizabeth, given that now you're the Chief Manager of Programs and Field, what would you say is the tangible results? How many years have you been working under NGCDF, first of all?
Thank you, Abdi.
Yes.
I started working in NGCDF in 2007.
You see, you have experience now. Tell us, what are those tangible results you have been able to see on the field?
Now, let me first put it into perspective that NGCDF model is so unique. One thing is looking at our governance structure. So when we look at the tangible results of NGCDF, in fact, looking, even just moving across this country, the number of Kenya medical training colleges that have come up. Currently, we have about 130 of them in partnership with the KMTC. You're able to see even the TTIs. We've done over 61 TTIs, the training, the technical training institutes. We have transformed, even of course previously when we were doing the road networks before the law was changed. You're able to see even some areas that are opened up, access to institutions, access to markets, and so on. We have tangible evidence in terms of projects in schools, like water projects in the schools. We have even testimonies of beneficiaries who have received bursary. We had a case where somebody was sponsored bursary from all the way from secondary school to the university. I want to give one very specific example of Madioya constituency, where NGCDF sponsored 8 students to do commercial pilot. They received commercial pilot certificates. So to us, I wish I could have more time to talk about the tangible things.
We have time.
Yeah, we have done a lot. Even look at our governance structure is so unique, such that the kind of projects that are identified is a community comes and says, this is what we want, and it comes to pass. We are seeing projects like the head teacher has mentioned, a school like Garden Estate, that never was there. But courtesy of NGCDF, we have a model school with all the facilities, with bus and any other facility that can facilitate learning. To us, that is really impact. Yes.
Okay, Mary, I'm coming to you because normally we know that CDF, when we talk about CDF, we normally see the legislators. We don't see people like you behind these such initiatives. So tell us the difference between you as the regional coordinator and some of these legislators who are overseeing some of these funds. What is their role and what is your role?
Okay, thank you very much. At the regional level, we act as an administrative structure where we link the constituencies and the board at the national level. You realize the members of parliament role is just the legislative part of it. And on our part is the executive part of it. So we ensure through the structure Madam Elizabeth has mentioned, from the NGCDF board to the NGCDFCs at the constituency level and at the PMC level, where we have the principal at the secondary school or various institutions that are implementing the project. That is the structure that is going to implement the project. The legislature, where the MP is, oversights whatever is happening at the constituency level. They may be representing the people at the constituency level. They are also stakeholders because we may have the members of the public who may not actually participate in one way or the other, and the member of parliament will represent them, because that is their role, the representation. But they are going to legislate the laws, they are going to oversight whatever is happening at the grassroots level, but now at the National Assembly level, but at our level, we ensure that whatever the members of public have proposed to be implemented as projects has been done. The board at the level is going to approve the projects that have been proposed from the public participation forums. Then the constituencies at the constituency level will receive the funding from the board, and the constituencies will also disburse the funds at the project level, where now the project management committees are going to implement projects with the guidance of the technical departments in the line ministries. Yes.
And Mr. Patrick, how do you coordinate well with the regional coordinator here, talking about that linkage? He is the linkage between the constituency and some of your institutions. So how does it work?
Well, what happens is this, when you talk about the moment the project identified, then as we have heard, they are approved. After they have been approved, now the projects are taken out to the consumers. Now I can say like a school, where now we have the public, the PMC. That's where now the project management committee, whereby in the school now, that's where we start now the implementation of the project. And for the implementation of the project, it happens through the fund manager, of course, whereby they come in very well. Also, we are talking about for that project to be implemented. Remember, we get advice from the public service, whereby they come in, not public service, sorry, the public works. They give the BQs, they are the ones who give the drawings. So as we do the implementation of the project, the PMC role, whereby when I'm talking about the PMC here, I'm talking about like now in my school, I'm there as the principal. Then we also have the chairman of the BOM. She's also a member of the PMC. Then also we have the PA chair, also happens to be the member of the PMC. Then also we have 2 representatives from the community who happens to be people just within the, who are coming just around the school. So you see with these people that it becomes very easy in the implementation, whereby we are the ones who now do the daily inspection of the project. Is this, when the project is being implemented, is it according to what we required, or rather according to what is supposed to be? And in case of any query coming up, what happens is that we raise the issue as a PMC through the fund manager, and through the fund manager, they are the ones now who are supposed to follow up on the technical issues, and then from there maybe they can coordinate with the NGCDF now when it comes to the coordination at the, let me see, the county level, the national board. Yeah, but at the school there, the PMC is the one which is in charge in the day-to-day maybe inspection to make sure that whatever is being constructed is according to what we had requested as a school. Yes.
And Elizabeth, given that that is the picture that Patrick is painting for us, do you work well with the communities surrounding those areas, not just institutions, but you see CDF goes beyond building schools, building toilets. At the end of the day, it is helping the community that it's supposed to serve. At the end of the day, those are their funds. So do you have that symbiotic relationship with the communities that you impact on?
Thank you, Abdiaziz. And let me start by saying that, you know, the community is so key in what I can call the project cycle management. What I mean is that at the identification level, when the project is being conceived, the community is so much involved because the national government, rather the NGCDF board, guides the constituencies on how to. What requires is that at the commencement of Parliament, the first year, the community must be involved in public participation, and once in every 2 years. So when the board guides that, then public participation happens. Now, in terms of planning, the community is so involved because part of the community forms the NGCDF committee, which now plans about these projects. Now, that also comes with implementation. Who implements the projects? It is the community again. guided, of course, by the board. Then you think about who monitors, because the community has a role to play in social audit. They have to check if we said we wanted a classroom, they will come to the school and check whether that classroom is being done in accordance with the budget that was set aside. Then when it comes to even the handover, can I tell you, Abdi, during the handover, it's a real ceremony.
Yes.
The community has to be there and confirm and even receive that project. So what we are saying is that the community and really complies, because it's like public participation, which is a requirement of the Constitution. So that is what we are saying, that even when it comes to talking about the bursaries, they know who is needy. Yeah, thank you.
And let me go to Mary. Mary, we're talking about the effectiveness of some of these projects. We just talked about 28,000 classrooms, 22,000 toilets. How are they effective to the community, especially with minimum cost in mind?
Okay, thank you very much. I think when we talk of there's so many other facilities that have been put up through NGCDF, it has reduced the cost on the part of the parents. You realize the parents, sometimes they may be requested to chip in so that the schools are able to set up some of these facilities. But through the NGCDF, that contribution, the parent is able to save on their part. And therefore, this empowers now the parents into doing other things with the money that they were meant to use through school fees. The bursaries, again, that are also given to the students, they also help the parents. Because again, the parent who was supposed to pay school fees is also given, the burden is reduced, because the CDF will come through the bursaries, and at some point, some students are fully sponsored. And that full scholarship, that full sponsorship through the NGCDF, again, the parent is only required probably to chip in on personal effects. And the full fees is catered. We have cases of beneficiaries who have been taken through secondary school, higher education, and currently they are working. Yes.
Okay, let me go to Patrick. Given that you've just talked on something that is very important, especially on bursaries, given that you consider these bursaries, Patrick, in your institutions, we have seen instances where even the Ministry of Education sometimes don't send the funds on time, especially for students who require them the most. So the issue is, how do you consider these bursaries and to ensure that because at the end of the day, secondary schools require money to operate well. So if the funds do not come in time and you bank on these bursaries that have been given by NGCDF, so how does it ensure that that gap is closed when it comes to addressing issues of finances that we have witnessed in institutions such as yourself?
Okay, thank you, Abdi. I think I can say when it comes to the issue of the bursaries, our schools have really benefited. As you have said, sometimes the government releasing of the FCA, the free day secondary or whatever, sometimes it is late. But what I can say is that when it comes to the issue of the bursaries, we mainly rely on that money. But what you need to understand is that when it comes to the issue of the bursary, mainly it deals with the lunch programs. Because you know in secondary schools, we don't have fees as such. There is no charging of fees. So no matter what happens, we sit down with the parents, we agree that we are providing lunch for the students so that they don't go during break time, during the lunch time, they don't break. So what happens is that this money comes in handy. And I want to tell you, if it was not for the bursaries, most of the schools, especially our day schools, normally keeps us going. And also, considering most of the parents we have in we call them the sub-county schools, most of our parents are quite humble. And we find that sometimes it is not easy to get this money from them. So you see now, and as you have heard, the bursaries they get from the NGCDF comes in handy, and it's able to cater. In fact, when it comes to the issue of lunch program, most of the money we get from the NGCDF goes to that. And as Wanyika here, she mentioned the issue of the construction. you will find that in the sub-county schools, there is nowhere we charge what you call development fund. Why? Because you see the construction of the classes is done by the NGCDF. The construction of the laboratories is done by the NGCDF, even when it comes to the buying of the school bus. So you find that in our schools, the NGCDF has made the life very easy and very good for our parents. They are not, the only thing they think of is now how to feed their children when it comes to now the issue of the luncheon. And that is, and you see again, when it comes to the issue of the luncheon monies, you see the NGCDF is coming in terms of the bursaries. So I think the common mwananchi down there, they really value when you hear us talking about the NGCDF, they have it at their heart because of what it is doing to their lives. Yes.
Let me go to Elizabeth. Elizabeth, how do you ensure, especially the issue of issuance of bursaries in various institutions, how do you ensure that that exercise is free and fair and is not corrupted?
All right. Thank you, Abdi. Let me start by saying the role, because where we sit at the board is to guide constituencies in management of the fund. Now, the board has done even guidelines to at least make sure that the bursary allocation is very fair. So when you look at the percentage that comes from to the bursary, that's around up to 40%, but of course the new law has opened it up.
Yes.
We guide constituencies and tell them that in terms of identification, can you make sure that you come up with a robust criteria on how the poorest of the poor will benefit. So what the constituencies embark to do is that if they are orphans, the total orphans, they have their category. We have a category for partial orphans. We have a category for special needs. Because let me tell you, Frank, on the aspect of the people with disability, the special needs, some of them may not have access to information. But through our guidance, we ensure that our fund account managers who really run the office are able to also identify the people with disability to benefit from the bursary. So in terms of accountability, the NGCDF board ensures that these constituencies through the schools are able to give acknowledgement, because if bursary moves from the constituency committee account to the school, specific school, it's normally a check that is written but with a list of those who are benefiting. So the role of the principal or the head teacher is to acknowledge that they have received this money, so that we are sure where we sit that the bona fide beneficiaries get that money. In terms of monitoring, of course, the board is mandated to monitor. So every time we go to the constituencies and also to the schools, we want to know how has the school benefited and what have they done with the money that we send them for the bursary. So what we are saying is that in overall, in our role at the board, we just make sure that the student who was supposed to get us, but that bursary gets. And that's why we have even the DCC sitting in the constituency committee. So that through the chiefs, because those are people under his authority, they can be able to get those people who are really in need. Thank you.
And of course, Mary, in terms of fairness, not just for institutions such as the one Patrick heads, CDF, you require money after it's being allocated by the Ministry of Treasury. We have had hiccups and hitches where, of course, the funds come in late, and in terms of what even the parliamentarians did early this year in terms of staging a walkout in Parliament, they ensured that you get those funds. So how has that, of course, had an impact on how you operate?
Okay, thank you, Abdi. Sometimes we receive the funding a bit late, and this is beyond our control. Because we receive funds from National Treasury and it trickles down to the NGCDF board, then down to the NGCDFC at the constituency level, and finally at the PMC level. Whenever we receive that funding at the board level, the board will disburse to the committees to ensure that they implement the projects within that particular financial year as it is set. If we don't receive that money, it will impact negatively because the projects that were meant to be implemented within that financial year, in terms of value of for money, we may lose it. But because it is beyond our control, and again, this money that we receive, it depends on the collection of the money within the country. We have to share out whatever has been collected in the country. We get something retro at the NGCDF board. Other money goes to health. Other money goes to other departments of the government. We have to share it equally. So we may not be able really to push to ensure that only CDF will get money on time. Otherwise, we work closely with all the departments to ensure that whatever retro that comes is shared also equally to the constituencies to ensure that development is also distributed equally. Yes.
Mr. Patrick, what do you require right now? Given that you said classrooms were built, you have required other amenities from NGCDF, but as a principal, you run an institution. I'm sure there's something that you would like NGCDF to focus on. What will that be?
Of course, when it comes to the issue of the classrooms, they are never enough. And you'll find that with the 100% transition, you'll find that you are getting so many students, especially when it comes to the Form 1. And also you'll find that now that you are going to the CBC, something else which will be required, and maybe this is something the NGCDF may require to consider, is when it comes to, beside the classrooms, what else do these students need? Beside the laboratories, beside the school bus, what do you think we can be able to help these kids with? Like now you find that in our sub-county schools, if it was possible, if we can now go to the playing fields, like the basketball courts, we talk about the lawn tennis courts, such like the swimming pool, maybe not the swimming pool as such, but we are talking about whereby with the coming in of the CBC, remember there are those schools who will be able to maybe target on the performing arts. There are those schools which will be able to target on the sports. So what will happen to these schools? Well, the classrooms are there, but these schools now will require the basketball courts, they require these playing fields. So it's my request that in the future, maybe the NGCDF can put this one in consideration, knowing that now that we are changing our education system now to the CBC, so that also they can also come in and assist. But one thing I want to tell you is that the issue of the classrooms is quite very, very important, and I'm very happy to say here that as a school, we are very grateful to the NGCDF because I cannot say that I'm lacking in a classroom. In fact, I have 2 extra classrooms because of the NGCDF. But I'm looking forward, knowing that we'll be getting more students, I'm looking forward to more coming into our school. Thank you.
The reason why Elizabeth was laughing, I know why she was laughing, because I want to ask her this question. You see, 78% of your funds go to the education sector. Now it is changing, not just the education sector, in various other sectors that NGCDF is going to support. So with these changing demands, how do you cope? And are you changing with them?
Thank you. And the reason I was laughing is because, let me just disclose it here, that Nairobi County constituencies actually received an extra 1 billion towards developing infrastructure. So that means they will have a lot of money more than the other constituencies where they can be able to expand the classrooms. But coming to your question, beyond the infrastructure, what next for us? I hope that is what you're asking.
Yes.
Because 78% goes to education, but under the current government, we have a very key pillar of the bottom-up economic transformation agenda called the digital superhighway.
Yes.
Now, we have come to realize that NGCDF can augment this agenda by undertaking the digital hubs. We have information, communication, and digital economy to have the digital hubs. Now, that to us is more or less not just the physical infrastructure. We are going to have a software in that we are going to have creative industry. We are going to encourage the youth to get Ajira or the online jobs. That is a software, let me put it, because we are used to the hardware. We are looking at what can we do to sensitize the community also about the climate, because that is also our mandate. It's not just classrooms. 5% is going for climate. What can we think, what can we do outside the normal growing of trees? There's a lot we can do under climate change. What next after the brick and mortar? We have to think about it and try to see how can NGCDF now reinvent itself to do other programs that are not being done by the government agencies. That's my take on that. Yes.
Mary, I'm coming to you because you'll be getting an extra 1 billion that you'll be overseeing. You've just heard from Elizabeth here. Now, you know, Nairobi, we have a problem, especially when it comes to classrooms. It is something the president has spoken about, the governor himself clearly stating that we have an issue. We have so many learners, but the classrooms are few. So in future, what are we going to focus on? Building more classes so that we can at least ensure that we nip this in the bud, because you see KBC now changing the education system.
Thank you, Abdi. I think that was a score in Nairobi region. Within the 17 constituencies, each constituency got an extra 58 million to work on the school infrastructure. And classrooms, like the principal has said, is major facility when it comes to learning. And Nairobi, as a region, we have a challenge in terms of land, so expansion in terms of horizontal expansion is a challenge. And so what are we doing to ensure that these classrooms are enough? We have to go upward mobility. And maybe 58 million may look much in Nairobi, but it may not be much, because when you're doing these classrooms, we have to ensure that the ground that has been set for this classroom, for the story building, is stable, to avoid issues of collapsing of the buildings that we have witnessed in some of the private schools, like it happened in one of the constituencies, killing pupils. And we wouldn't want to have such scenarios. And so through the support of the buildings that are being set up in our different schools are stable, and to at least handle 3 other floors. And with 3 other floors, for example, what has been done in Garden Estate, I'm happy that this school came up when I was a fund account manager. We have worked very closely with the principal, Mr. Patlek, and we ensured that the buildings that have been set there, whether by NGCDF or even through the Ministry of Education capitation, we set up story buildings so that we can utilize the upward mobility. Through that, we will ensure that we have enough classrooms, and even in future, we're looking forward to having more, because the student enrollment, the pupils enrollment is increasing day by day. And being one of our greatest achievement, again, the increment on the enrollment rates, on the transition rates, on the retention rates, that ensures that all the school age-going children have had an opportunity to attend to learning. Yes.
Mr. Patrick, I want to come to you because you see the current government is focusing on the digital hubs Elizabeth is talking about. And in secondary school, we have these teenagers who can leverage on those opportunities. Aside from the computer labs that you have, how are we going to ensure that these students capitalize on this particular program?
Okay, thank you. Maybe what I can say is that besides the computer labs we have, is that we also have the libraries in schools. What will happen in the libraries, if it can be able to, through the NGCDF, we avail maybe the computers, we avail maybe that our students, our learners can be able to get the e-learning materials when it comes to the library. I think that is something which can go a long way, benefiting our communities. And I would also want to say that when we talk about the schools, is that the school is not just a school as a private entity. You'll find that our communities who I'd say maybe surrounding the school, they make use of those schools. It's like, if I can give the example of my school, whereby we have the ICT lab, whereby we have seen learners, maybe even over the holidays, they come to school, they want to get the skills as far as the computer is concerned. Besides that, if we have the library, like we have a library in the school, if we can be able to equip it to the the computers, we can be able to connect it. It will be very beneficial to the community. We can be able to open up and help the surrounding youths. They can be able to come to the school. They can be able to use the library freely. And besides that, now that I'm talking about the school being a kind of a community asset, you find, I talked about the issue of the playing fields. You find that like now in Garden State Secondary School, most of the communities there's no other area where they go to do their sports, they do their playing. In fact, you'll find that all the teams, they normally come to Garden State Secondary School. So you see what I'm talking about is a situation whereby we have an avenue whereby if the NGCDF can be able to set up those hubs in their schools, it will be able to attract even these youths, and they can be able to come and use them. Not just the students we have in the school, but also the students, we're talking about the youths who sometimes maybe they have gone through the Form 4, maybe they're out there, they don't have something to do, and I'm sure we can be able to accommodate them in our schools. Yes.
And let me go back to Elizabeth. You were talking earlier about in terms of ensuring that you work closely, especially with the Ministry of ICT that is spearheading this initiative of a digital superhighway. In terms of how do you work with the government, especially that ministry in particular, in setting up some of these Wi-Fi hotspots that we have witnessed being set up in various wards and constituencies?
Yes, thank you so much, because it's about partnerships. And what we did, because this digital hub program had started a little bit earlier, around 2016, where we were doing the constituency innovation hubs. So the role of the board, because we are guided by our act, is basically ensure that the infrastructure is in place. But when it comes to the software, the issue of the bandwidth and all those technical terms, it's actually the role of the Ministry of IC and DE, that is the Information Communication and Digital Economy. So what normally happens is that when now we receive proposals from the constituencies requesting for these digital hubs, then we reach out to the Ministry of the Information and Communication, so that we can be able now to work together in terms of operationalizing that facility. So we had challenges, let me just put it that way, and that's why I think with this new, we're giving it a new touch to see if we can have all partners in place on time, so that every partner plays their role. For instance, if NGCDF board is the one financing, then we expect the Ministry of ICT to come in and give us the connections and all those other things. We expect the DCC to come in there to offer security and so on. So ideally, we will end up now having a facility that is fully operationalized. They will also provide us with the staff, because you can just set up a digital hub, but there is no one to show these youth how to operate. Some of them are coming from the villages. They don't even know how a computer is supposed to be operated. So we have now the ICT managers, who are employees who will be sent to the ground, so that there is that seamless partnership in terms of the operationalization. Yes, we hope this time we'll get it right.
Okay.
Yes.
Why not tap into a resource like Patrick here? Patrick, that's why I want to come to you, because aside from teaching the institution that you had, what about helping out the community in terms of understanding what surrounds a computer?
That is true. You'll find that, like, and she has talked about the personnel. You know, like now a school like us, we offer computer studies. So we have teachers there. And besides that, we are talking about students who have taken computer studies all the way up to Form 4. We have even had some students who have left the school. Maybe they're out there in the colleges, and they are ready to come back to school and give something back to the community. So what I was trying to say is that if the NGCDF can be able to work together with the schools, they can be able to set up those kind of digital hubs in the schools. Then when it comes to the issue of the personnel, I don't think it will be a big issue, especially in the school, because up to now, besides the students who are taking computer studies in the school, no matter what happens, we also have those other learners who are not taking computer studies. What happens to them? So we come up with a timetable whereby we are able to, maybe the teachers concerned, they are able to get they become computer literate. We give that there are those students you know very well who have never been able to see a computer, they have not been able to handle one. So we are able to introduce them. And what happens if we don't employ anybody else? What happens is the teachers we have in the school, they are able to get that. So the only thing we need to do is to timetable. so that also we can have free computer lessons for those students who are not taking computer studies. The same thing can go to the community. I've talked about most of the students, or rather most of the youths. They normally come to our school, maybe when there are games there, and I see most of them idling around. And I always ask myself, why can't we allow these kids? Why can't we just open up our library? Assuming we had the computers in the library,
yes.
so these kids can come in and go into the, like when it comes to the library, I have a librarian there who happens to be a young man, and I'm sure he has the computer, the skills. Those guys can be allowed to get in there. Besides that, we also work in partnership with the universities. Like my school works very closely with the USIU, whereby if we are to have something like that, the USIU have been saying that they can be able to connect us even to the universities outside the country, where we can be able to have the e-books, we can be able to have all that information. So what I'm saying that if the NGCDF can come and invest in our schools, then from there they tell us, can you allow the community to come in? I'm sure since the school belongs to the community, we'll be able to allow those youths to come and use our schools. Yes.
Mary, we were talking about corporate social responsibility. I'm sure NGCDF has, especially you do know that parents, even Patrick can attest to here, there are parents who do not have the capacity of paying those fees aside from the bursary. Some of them even opt to work in schools so that they can pay the fees of their kids. So what are you trying to do to help such individuals in the society?
Okay, at the constituencies level, we may not have such kind of programs, but at the board level, we have a corporate social responsibility where we are doing best practices, and the board also identifies through the different schools on what type of project they can implement. So that is being implemented at the board level. When you realize that is also actually improving the infrastructure of the schools, beside what the communities and the constituencies are doing at their level. So maybe in future, we may look at it at the constituency level and see what best we can do as a corporate social responsibility. And given that the funding that we get from the government, it is a budget that has been approved, and specifically for a particular project, and that project must be community driven. That is that project that is going to serve a big number of beneficiaries within that community, and therefore you realize that at the board we are doing very well in terms of the CSR projects, but we're looking forward in future if we can manage to do it at the constituency level, well and good, that can be adopted.
Yes. I'm coming to you, Elizabeth, in just a few, because there is this particular board that I'm hearing so much about, because we need to ask these questions. At the end of the day, you even know there are some investigations ongoing in terms of NGCDF. I'm coming to you, but I need to remind our viewers that we are currently discussing NGCDF's 20th anniversary launch event that will be taking place here in the capital in Nairobi. But you can see those are live images right now in terms of the revision of law's 24th annual supplement, with the Office of the Attorney General spearheading that particular event. Any moment from now, we do anticipate the event to start, and the president is expected there as well. He will be spearheading this particular initiative. This is what we're keeping an eye on with the 24th annual supplement of laws of Kenya. The AG, Justin Muturi, will be spearheading alongside President William Ruto this function. Once it starts, we'll be taking you there. But in the conversation that we're currently having here in our studios, it is in terms of the NGCDF 20th anniversary launch event. The campaign goal this time around will be to celebrate 20 years of NGCDF's positive impact on Kenyan communities. Elizabeth, I was coming to you now. In terms of addressing the elephant in the room, you handle much money compared to any other establishment out there. So what measures have you put in place to ensure that those monies are safe so that it can go to the intended people?
All right, but give me a second to just add on to what Mary has said.
Yes, yes.
Because when Mary was talking, I got thinking that we need to get the model of Equity Bank, where the wings to fly.
Yes.
Those students that are sponsored using bursary from Equity normally give back by going to work for the bank. But I'm just thinking, those students that you have sponsored in bursary, they should also now adopt other students to pay their bursaries because they get jobs. We sponsor them sometimes to university, they get jobs and they don't come back to even help. so that is what I had to put. But coming now to your issue on how do we make sure that the amounts like the 518 billion is well managed. One mechanism we have in place is, of course, the fact that we have audited reports, audited accounts. The accounts of the 290 constituencies are audited, and they submit financial statements to the Office of the Auditor General at the end of every year, but that is not end of every year, every financial year by 30th of September. That means also the board submits their financial statements. They are accountable. Another way that we make sure that our funds are well managed is through the normal monitoring, because the law requires that the board undertakes the various monitoring in the constituencies. We also have performance management. All our constituencies have signed performance contract with the board, so that, and one of the targets is efficient management of the fund.
Yes.
So they're supposed to make sure that these funds, there is value for money. And that is how efficiency comes in. Because efficiency now here will be looking at what projects have you done at a minimum cost, that value for money. There is also the oversight, because we report to the Decentralized Funds Account Committee of Parliament, where now we are able to be called and summoned and to explain why there are audit queries here and there. We also report to the committee of, that is the Parliamentary Committee of Budget and Finance. So where we are able to say, now this is our budget and this is what we want to do with our programs. We also report to the National Assembly Select Committee. So what we are saying is that there is oversight on our funds, and the funds are well managed. Thank you.
Now, given that we have a few minutes to go, let me spare some time for Patrick. Patrick, your final remarks on this, and in future, what should be the focus?
Well, thank you. I think one thing I want to say is that the NGCDF has really done quite a good job. And I really want to commend them for the way they have been able to run their business, especially when it comes to the accountability. I can say they are doing a very good job, because you'll find that at the PMC level, there's also a lot of accountability. There is no payment the PMC will do without first we have to get the certificate of payment from the Public Works. That Public Works certificate must go to the fund manager. So you see, there is no single coin which can be paid to a contractor if it is not supposed to be paid. So there is a lot of accountability in that. Well, my take for the future is that my wish is that if we can be able to expand the NGCDF in terms of giving them more funds. And beside the infrastructure, I know they are doing a very good job there. What if we are to increase when it comes to the issue of the bursaries? Because you'll find that, of course, we are really getting a lot of money, but like I would really want to say thank you very much to the Roysambu constituency. The Roysambu constituency, they are really supporting the schools there, because you'll find that the last time we were able to get the bursaries, each child was able to get 7,000 shillings. And this goes a long way. It has paid, like now we say in a school, when we're talking about the lunch on money, that's more than half. The bursary is paying. So, but I would wish a situation whereby, because you'll find there are those parents you'll find in the schools, yes, they have received the 7,000. But of course, assuming the lunch program was about 10,000, there's that balance of 3,000. There are some parents who cannot manage to pay that 3,000. So it's my request, if the NGCDF, through the bursary committees, if they can be able to go down and get more information, that in case there are those parents who truly cannot be able to pay anything, is it possible? Maybe they get more than the 7,000, more than the 5,000. And I'm sure that way they'll be able to make sure that all the children are in school all the time. Thank
Mary,
you.
as we wind up, what can we expect in your event later this week?
I think this will be a big celebration across the country. And we are proud as NGCDF for the achievements that we have had. We have touched the communities, we have impacted the communities, and we are looking at it in terms of the impact. What has this fund done to the community? Because our main target is changing the lives of the communities at the grassroots level. When this fund came on board, it was to eradicate the poverty at the grassroots level. And as we celebrate the 20 years, that is exactly what has happened. We have been able to empower students. We've been able to give them an opportunity to get into the class, learn, and empower their families back. People would not have gotten an opportunity to go to class. They have gotten one. And you realize educating one child in a family is going to change the lives of the other siblings in that family. We have also changed the community through empowerment, the creation of employment that we have had at the community level, because this money is supposed to go back to the community. And whenever we have projects being implemented at the community level, employment, the laborers are actually recruited from that same particular community. The people implementing those projects, we encourage that if it is possible, they can also be, the suppliers can also provide from that particular community. So we're looking forward to celebrating even the employment creation that we have had through NGCDF. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and sorry for rushing you.
It's
That
right.
is Mary Wanyika, the NGCDF regional coordinator here in the capital. Thank you for making time for us. There, Patrick Kungwaweru, the principal of Garden Estate Secondary School. Thank you for your time. And then finally, Elizabeth Kitundu, the chief manager, programs and field coordination. You've been smiling all through. Of course, we wish you all the best in your event that will be kicking off later this week. Thank you for making time for us. Now I need to take you live to Safari Park. As I told you earlier on, we'll be focusing on this particular hour in terms of the revision of the laws of the 24th annual supplement, where the Office of the Attorney General is currently leading that particular event. You can see those are live images from Safari Park. Let's head over there, given that President William Ruto will be leading that event.
A very good morning. Welcome to the official launch of the 24th annual supplement of the laws of Kenya, which is expected to be officially launched by the President of the Republic of Kenya, His Excellency, the President of Kenya, Dr. William Samoei Ruto, today the 30th of April 2024 at Safari Park in Nairobi, Kenya. According to the program, we expect to have the Solicitor General, State Law Office, Honorable Shadrach Mose, making his welcome remarks. Thereafter, we'll have the Chair, the National Council for Law, reporting the Chief Justice and President of the Supreme Court of Kenya, Honorable Chief Justice Martha Koome, who will later invite the Attorney General of Kenya, Honorable Justice Muturi, who will invite His Excellency, the Prime Cabinet Secretary and Cabinet Secretary for Foreign and Diaspora Affairs, who will later thereafter invite His Excellency, Honorable Musalia Mudavadi, who is the Prime Cabinet Secretary and Cabinet Secretary for Foreign and Diaspora Affairs. Thereafter, he'll invite the President of Kenya, His Excellency, the President, Honorable Dr. William Samoei Ruto. After the speech of the President, we'll have the Attorney General of Kenya sign Volume 1 of 20 of the laws of Kenya. Thereafter, the Attorney General of Kenya will hand over copies of the annual supplement of the laws of Kenya to His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Kenya, Dr. William Ruto. Thereafter, to the Clerk of the National Assembly, and later to the Clerk of the Senate, and later to the Chief Registrar of the Judiciary. The event is set to continue after the launch, and thereafter, given that this is an event that is happening for the first time in 28 years, where the Office of the Attorney General, working together with the Kenya Law, has published the 24th annual supplement of the laws of Kenya as of legal notice 221 of 2023.